So tell me, what is the difference between doing ayahuasca and doing mushrooms? You know, everybody's talking about microdosing at the moment. So what is the difference between a mushroom ceremony?
Well, a mushroom ceremony, I've only done two, and I think you're always called to a plant. So I was more called to ayahuasca. So mushroom, I believe, is a masculine plant. So the mushroom is a beautiful, it will show you what you need to be shown. However, it's a very direct, it's very masculine, and it goes boom. You can't run from what the mushroom's telling you. The mushroom's very direct, very masculine, very there in your face. And if you're with a good healer and good practitioner, they'll guide you to go through that space, but you can't run from the mushroom. It's masculine. It's very beautiful. Ayahuasca is a feminine, and they call her she, and she's more feminine. She flows. She takes you on a journey, but you can dip, you can go round it. You sometimes don't have to go and face what she's showing you, whereas it's just the feminine and the masculine, and they're both beautiful plants, but they've got different energies.
That's really good to know. Thank you.
Welcome to The Wellness Way with me, J Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome to The Wellness Way. I don't know if you remember, but back in the summer, I held a competition for the first anniversary of the podcast. And what I wanted to do more than anything was to get some real normal people's stories on the podcast. I just want to say thank you to every single person that entered the competition. I was a bit overwhelmed, not just with the quantity, but the quality and the depth of the stories, and a lot of them were incredibly hard to read. And I just want to thank every single one of you for sharing your soul and your story with me. But I had to choose a winner. And today I have chosen the wonderful Pauline Adams, who's going to share her story. And I wanted to share this because a few weeks ago, I introduced the amazing Neil Shah, and we talked about ayahuasca. I'm a middle-aged woman. Pauline's a middle-aged woman. I hope she won't mind me saying that. And I just am fascinated by this subject and why so many people are looking for plant medicine now. And so without further ado, Pauline Adams, welcome to The Wellness Way, and massive congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely delighted that you've chosen me as the winner, and I feel so honoured to be able to share my story with you.
It's a wonderful story because you're a normal person.
Yeah.
You weren't going through particularly any massive trauma, like a lot of us that then go on to kind of spread the word. So just tell us a little bit about your life. You were a salon owner, so fill us in. What happened?
Yeah, so I've had a lovely life, a very blessed life. I was cabin crew in my early 20s for a little bit, travelled long haul, met my first husband, had two beautiful children. I separated from him when I was 40, and it was amicable. It was okay. Any separation's hard, but we were there for our children. Went on and then met my lovely second husband. Very blessed to meet him. We're very aligned. We got on great. Feel very fortunate to be married. I opened a salon late in life. I went and retrained in makeup and opened a salon in my early 40s and sold it when I was 50. And yeah, my life's been really good. 50, my life took a bit of a turn. I sold my business, kind of lost myself. I think I hit menopause. I had a family disagreement, which ended in us not speaking, which was really tough. And for the last 4 or 5 years in my 50s, I've really struggled with who am I, trying to get over things that had happened, maybe things from my early childhood, things from my early 20s. You know, I didn't have major traumas in my life. I didn't take drugs. You know, I had been very blessed, but I'd always had a depressive nature. I'd suffered from postnatal depression. I had something that happened to me just as I married my first husband, and I think I now know I parked that aside, and it was quite a major trauma, and I didn't deal with it. And I now know that subsequently that's what's led on to me when I got to 55 questioning it.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast. Why don't you come and sign up to my newsletter at phillyjlay.com, where we can keep connected and we can talk about lots of things going on in the world. You will also get my free manifestation meditation so you can become a shit-hot manifester too. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And turn your notifications on so you never miss an episode. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a really important point to make, because it happened to me kind of when I hit 50 and in my early 50s. And you feel, I remember a really close friend of mine once saying, I found my superpower when I turned 50. It's the invisible cloak. Yeah. And I think that is very true for many of us, that, you know, we turn 50 and we feel invisible. Nobody sees us. Yeah. And you've got the menopause, and you've got your children leaving home, and, you know, that empty nest syndrome. And it's really quite a challenging time for women. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the majority of divorces that happen when women turn just over 50 are instigated by the women. You just kind of go, I can't do this anymore. But as you said, you've had no major traumas, but you felt that something was missing in your life. And you know, we'll come back to that. But you decided to do something really radical and look at plant medicine. Now, everybody's talking about plant medicine at the moment, ayahuasca, and there are lots of different types, and we're going to run through them. So why did you decide this? And what was the reaction of your family?
So my friend went to Colombia to stay with another friend who lived there. And it was a sort of story of a story. She'd had a breakup in her relationship, and she went out to stay in Colombia, and I didn't take much notice. And when she was there, she sat and did ayahuasca and came home and was like, this, I met her and I was like, wow, what have you done? This was March 2022. And then I set it aside. So they always say that the ayahuasca or plant medicine will come looking for you, you know, when the time is right. And I do believe that that entered my world, and I saw her journey. And then I set it aside. And then she said, oh, the girl that I was visiting, she brings the shaman over from Colombia to southern Spain. And I thought, oh, next day on my Instagram, what pops up? This girl's retreat in southern Spain. No, my friend messaged me and said, fancy it? And I said, no, I can't do those dates. The next day, the retreat centre popped up the dates. And one of the dates I was free in August 23. And I've got quite a busy social calendar. And I looked at the flights and they were quite cheap. And I thought I could get there. So I booked a call. I just booked a discovery call. Never told my husband. I felt such a strong pull to do this. It was almost, I'm very intuitive. I've always been spiritual. I've always had an interest. And I just felt a calling to do this call. So I did. I booked the call.
You booked the call. And what did they say to you during the call that made me think, because I'm thinking about it too as well. That was a Freudian slip. What was it in the call that made you think, I'm going to go this route, rather than saying, do you know what? I might need a little bit of counselling at the moment. What was the difference?
The difference was I had been in counselling for 4 years in my 50s. I had been in counselling when my marriage split up and before my marriage split up. And I'd done some counselling when this trauma happened in my early 20s. And whilst I got to the point where I could understand, so I could understand forgiveness. I could understand that it wasn't always my fault. It was other people's perceptions, other people's journeys. I could understand it all, but I couldn't feel it. I felt dead and heavy inside. And it just wasn't connecting. The connection of, yeah, I can tick that box, I can tick that box, I can tick that box. And yeah, and I think that the speaking counselling, for me personally, all I did in the speaking counselling was go in and bring up all those things again, and then walk out of a room and think, what do I do now? And I go home and I just have to continue life. So for me, there wasn't a deep healing within, and I felt as if I was living a living grief, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Inside.
So, yeah, I think a really important thing, you know, everybody that I've spoken to that's had conventional talking therapy say that you go in there and then it takes a while to get to the trauma, and then you have to release the trauma, talk about it, and then the psychiatrist or psychotherapist looks at their watch or their clock and says, I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go, what the fuck do I do with this?
Yeah, 100%.
So you decided not to do that route again, to have the call to Spain. And what was the kind of sway that made you feel, I have to do this? You said that the plant calls you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I knew the retreat centre. I knew who ran it. I didn't know a lot about them, but I knew the girl who was in charge of it through my friends. So I felt that I had a connection. On the call, she was very reassuring, and to the point where, you know, she's seen so many transformations. She was, you know, she's Scottish as well, and she was saying, you know, we will get through this. And I had explained what was, you know, I was being stuck with, and she said, yeah, you know, I think mine was probably like family trauma and things like that. And I said to her, this is what I want to try and understand and try and heal. And she said, yeah. And she talked me through it. We were on the call for about 40 minutes. I can remember it was a Friday lunchtime. My husband came in for lunch. I came off the call and I said, I'm going on a retreat and I've booked it. And he looked at me and he went, you're doing what? And he was on the floor. He was so against it. He was, oh, it was awful. Why are you doing this? Why do you need to do this? And I said, and the first time, I mean, I'm quite I am a very strong person. And when I make up my mind, I will do something. But I said to him, I said, please respect me in this. I need to do this. And his words to me were, which I think is so funny, why are you going up to a mountain with a bunch of strangers to get off your face? Why do you need that? And then he said to me, what's wrong with your life? Because I think that was he's a provider and we have a lovely lifestyle. And I think he was saying, well, you've got me, we've got a great marriage. Why do you need to go and do this? And I said, it's not about you. This is about really, really deep inside me. I need to do this for me. You know, and at first I took it as you know, you're controlling me, you're doing this. And then when I really sat into it, I thought, this is a place of love from him. He just wants to protect me and care for me and love me. But I said to him, I'm still doing it. So I booked it.
Oh my God, I don't have a husband to answer for. So it's something that is absolutely fascinating to me. And I am looking into this at the moment. So many people I know have done these retreats and they do microdosing. And we'll come to microdosing later. But first of all, we're going to talk about the fact that you have to prepare for these retreats, don't you? Yeah. So could you talk us through the preparation process?
So the preparation, I mean, I was absolutely terrified. I will admit, I was terrified. I have never taken a drug in my life because I grew up terrified of drugs. The only thing I have dabbled in is alcohol. And I have used alcohol as a masking throughout my life. So for me, like, to cope with things was always alcohol. But drugs, I have never experienced that out of, I mean, I've been drunk, but I've never experienced, you know, being on a trip, you know, never in my life. So I did do a little mushroom ceremony with my friend, who's a practitioner, just a very light one. She said, I just want you to get into feeling maybe some visions and things. That was lovely. And it only took me to where I needed to be. They asked us to do a vegan diet and cut out coffee and alcohol just because it's like cleaning out your body. I didn't fully engage in that because I was so terrified that I thought I can't block my mind with all these. So I cut out the alcohol, cut out meat, tried to do a bit of vegan, just had a really clean diet, but I didn't punish myself. What came up for me was I did a lot of journaling. And I truly believe that when you have the call for this medicine, they say the medicine works on you before you go. And so I booked this about 5 weeks before I go. So I didn't have a lot of time. And I started journaling and I had the craziest dreams. to the point where I was waking up in the next day and saying to my husband, have I done this in my life? And I had to journal it all out. Now, after being through ayahuasca and looking back at the journal, I see it was all the prep. It was all the stuff coming up. So I would say that the preparation for it is diet, clean diet, no alcohol, no caffeine, no sugar, cut out like chilies, and just so that you're clean enough to go in and the medicine can go through your body. And journaling and really sitting with your intentions of what am I looking for? Why am I going here? Although you can put down as many intentions as you want, but the medicine gives you what you need. So that's another learning point.
So I'm a big fan of journaling. As most people know, I wrote my first book in 2020 called The Natural Wellness Journal. And journaling really helped me when I was at my darkest ebb, and I'd stopped eating and I hadn't eaten for quite a few months, and I was bordering on anorexia again. And a friend of mine came over and said, why don't you teach me how to make bone broth? I want to know how to make bone broth. Now, she completely knew how to make bone broth, but she just wanted, I wasn't seeing anybody at that period in my life. I wanted to be alone. And when she left, she said, do you know what? I think you should keep a food journal. And I went, I'm not keeping a journal. And she went, I really think you should just write down what you've eaten and how it made you feel. And I didn't do it for about another 2 months. And then one day, I felt so ill and so sick, and I just got a notepad and I started journaling, and wow, did crap come out of me. It was just like this written verbal diarrhea, and I'm going, what the fuck? Where's all this come from? Which is why I wrote my first book as a journal, because I think it's really important. The moment you start getting those emotions down on the paper,
100%. And I had struggled with journaling before in the work I'd done with, like, I had a coach and I had a counsellor, and I'd really struggled to sit and journal. And then just when you, as you say, when you just start writing, sometimes your pen just overtakes. And some of the times it wasn't making any sense. It was just like feelings, thoughts, patterns, recounting dreams, and even just like writing how I felt. And it was an awful lot of emotion as well. And now, and I think it's really good to look back on as well now, because a lot of it, looking back, this is me a year down the line, I look back now and it all makes sense. And I go, right, I understand that now. So if I hadn't had that journaling, I don't know if I would have made as much sense of it.
And how often a day did you journal on preparation through? First of all, how many days did you go? 4 days, wasn't it?
I went for 4 days and we did 3 ceremonies in 4 days.
Okay, so preparation, journaling up to those 4 days.
Up to those 4 days, yeah. And then travelled out to Spain on my own. I took a video the night before that I went into. So I journaled every day. Sometimes if I didn't journal, it was okay. But there was a lot of, I would say there was more emotion in my body. I had a lot of feelings, and I just sort of, I had quite a lot of tears that were just coming just before it. And I just thought, right. And I remember messaging the lady who ran the retreat and said, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can come. And she went, it's fine. It's fear, it's ego, it's protection. You'll be fine. We will look after you. You can do this. So I just sort of gave in and I just journaled. I wasn't like, I have to journal now today. It was like, as it came, I just did it. A lot of my friends and my family were my kids. My mum, my daughter said to me, Mum, that's DMT. You've never taken a drug. And I was like, what's DMT? I didn't even know what DMT was. And my son was like, really, Mum? My husband was like, my friends were like, oh, that's you. You're going to be a hippie now. No makeup, hairy legs, Jesus sandals, that's you. And I just kind of went, whatever, because I knew I had to do it.
I love that because I'm finding the calling so strong at the moment, and I know I have to do this, but there is still an element of fear in me that doesn't quite know how to go about it. And I think for me, and you talked earlier about alcohol being your kind of what do you call it, your crutch, habit or whatever, and that's always been the same with me in my life, and I think it's that fear of having to give up alcohol for a month in prep, and then through the ceremony, and then if you've done it, you might as well never go back to it. And like you, I mean, I did some drugs in my kind of early childhood, from about 15 to 17. And then one day I got really, really stoned at a party in Baker Street and tried to fly off the roof of the building 13 stories up. And I said, and luckily one of my friends grabbed me and explained to me that I didn't know how to fly. I was not Wonder Woman, but I've never touched drugs since. And so I think that is the scary thing for me, that, you know, I haven't touched drugs, but I know that everybody I talk to, the benefits of plant medicine are immense. They just seem to be immense.
I can't tell you. I mean, all you're saying is all the feelings I had before I went. I mean, I took a video the morning of, before I went to get picked up for the retreat. We had to meet at the airport, and I took a video, and my face is just terrified. I spoke into the camera because I wanted to remember how I felt and how I looked. And I looked sad, and I looked heavy, and I looked shut down. So as much as my life, I presented this, you know, makeup on, I had been a salon owner, I like my clothes, I like going out, you know, I'm always, people, you know how people have a perception of you from Instagram and from what they know, and I always presented that, but deep down I knew, and I wanted to take this video, and I took this video, and I was terrified to the point that I was like, I just wanted to run away. I remember writing in my journal, I remember when I was a small child, I hated sleepovers. And I remember going to my aunt's for a sleepover. Obviously, my mum wanted some peace. And I remember like crying all night. And I want to go home to my mum. I was 4 or 5.
Oh, right. And you remember that?
I remember that. That's my earliest memory of being scared and wanting to be home and be comfortable with what I know. And going into that ayahuasca retreat, that's exactly how I felt. I wrote that in my journal. I feel like the small child who needs to go home. That was how powerful it was. I was so scared. We got up to retreat. There was 15 of us, 16. We were made so comfortable. You walk into this retreat, and the love that is there is just immense. And we had an integration. We were going into ceremony that night, and then we had like a whole chat. We just to have a little chat about what we thought. And I remember like those 4 hours before we went in, and I'm thinking, and I didn't know, I just thought, I hadn't done a lot of research, and I would say, don't do too much reading if you're going to do it, just go and do it. You know, obviously know who you're sitting with, know their reputation, but don't read other people's stuff, because you just need to go in and do it. And I remember thinking, do we just take this medicine and go to our bed? I didn't know we were going into a Maloka. We were going to be there all night. And
okay, I need to know. I need to stop you there, because I need to know, because this is something I'm seriously considering doing.
You need to do it. If you've had the call, and you need to do it.
So talk me through the ceremony.
You come out, you're in there till maybe 6, 7 in the morning. People have all different experiences, but you really bond really quickly. And then you're encouraged, you have a breakfast, you're encouraged to just sit and go over. So it was all the journaling, talking to people, the support there, people just gel. And then it was very much a lot of synchronicities were coming about. So that was my first night. And then we did that morning, we did Kambo. So Kambo is the frog medicine.
Okay, tell me, you're talking to a complete and utter novice here. Tell me what Kambo is. So
Kambo is it's a cleansing frog. They call it frog poison, but I don't like that word poison, because it's like peptides that are the closest to the human peptides we carry. So it's very much a cleansing. So that is a purge. That's very quick, very purging. And again, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I went in and had that Kambo, and it was the most intense experience. I came out and they were saying to me, you look 10 years younger, your eyes are glowing. I just felt like, and what it did was it opened my heart. And I felt that day, I felt a lot of love and a lot of peace. And you're talking to people, you're in this beautiful space with people who are like-minded. You're all there to heal. You gel. There's nature around about you. There's dogs. I mean, it's like a time where you just leave everything behind. There's no social media. I didn't contact my family. And that day, the second day before the second ceremony, I felt love. Like my heart was open. So that night I went into ceremony, I went in a lot more confident and a lot more trusting. And I asked that night, I said to the medicine, I said, open my heart and show me love. and I had a beautiful night. It was, a lot of stuff came up for me, and again, I did a lot of crying, and I remember talking to one of the helpers and talking about what had happened to me, and I now realise I was in victim mode. You know, this happened to me and that happened to me and poor me. And that was lots of lessons. And then again that night, on the second night, I did purge, but I get shown a Black Panther. You know, one of the helpers was over, and she said to me, "Are you okay? And you know, how you doing?" And I'm saying, "There's a panther up there," and she's going, "I'm going, no, there is a panther. There's a panther looking down at me." When you go in and look at these guides, I now know that the Black Panther is my spirit guide, and when you look at that, that's the representation of femininity and strength. And I also got shown spiders and just lots of synchronicities. So my
that's a synchronicity there, because one of my spirit guides is a Black Panther and the other one is a
love it.
So
amazing.
I know. So actually almost white wolf, and I see them and they come to me.
Yeah.
Do you know, if anybody had told me 10 years ago that I'd be sitting there having these conversations with other middle-aged women,
I'm the same.
I would have said they were absolutely fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean,
So would I.
But once you start doing this work, it's liberating. And I think that's why I wanted to interview you so much, because I'm just trying to find that extra little bit of courage at the moment.
Well, you need to do that.
I've got to interview you because I need that courage. And I'm sure there are millions of, well, not millions, but, you know, a lot of women out there that need that little bit of courage, and also the strength to, you know, oppose your family, if you like, because there will be a lot of families that will just go, "You're not doing that."
Yeah. And it's true, they don't understand, they want to protect you, they have the programming that we're in, you know, and how we're supposed to live our lives, and you know, what's wrong with you. You know, my husband was like, "Why do you need to do this?" And people now, I mean, I love this medicine. I absolutely love it. It has changed my life, and I would say it's saved my life, and it's opened my heart. I totally think differently. I can truly be forgiving. I'm not saying that my life is now 100%, it ticks all boxes and you come out and you are perfect. No. What the shaman says is the medicine will do 50% of the work and you need to do the other 50%. And the 50% of the work coming out has been tough, because obviously it's shown you've done more healing than people round about you. And I'm not saying from an ego point of view you're better than them, not at all, but you have had this profound experience of love, heart opening. You speak a different language, you feel a different way, and sometimes people look at you and go, "What is she talking about?" I don't walk about preaching it. I did come out and I wanted to stop everybody in the supermarket and say, "You need to drink ayahuasca." Now I did. I was like, the world would just be a better place.
I know. I think you might get arrested if you do that, though.
I know. I think I would.
I'm not sure this episode's going up on YouTube. Well, yeah.
I know.
You know, what do you do? We've got to be looking for alternatives, because we know the Western medical system doesn't work. And we know that we have trauma in the world like never before. You know, we have more suicides than ever before.
It's so sad.
And I believe that plant medicine is something that we need to be talking about a lot more frequently.
What part of my retreat was the shaman doesn't speak English, but he interprets. And one of the nights, or off night, we weren't in ceremony. He took us through his life, his commitment to the medicine. He's been studying this medicine for 50 years. It's part of his lineage. But they, in their tribes, they sit with this medicine, they give it to their teenagers so that the problems don't arise. And that's part of their lifestyle. And to hear that, and, you know, so respectful to this medicine that they use and they understand. And it hurts me in this society that when you tell somebody, they say, "That's illegal, that can kill you, and that's not good for you," because that's what we're told. And what really annoys me now is that I love how it's coming into the bigger speed, you know, of the world, but Big Pharma want to put it in a pill. And all I would say to anybody was, you cannot put ayahuasca in a pill. Ayahuasca is to be respected. It's a spiritual medicine. She is a feminine medicine. So she knows you, she works with you. And that to me, before, I could never have spoken like this. She guides you. And when you sit with that shaman, he protects you, the spirits round about you. I mean, if I've got time, my last night on my ayahuasca, when my last cup of medicine on the last ceremony, the first 2 nights have been very gentle, and I knew on my last night, I knew I had healing to do. I knew that was the night. And I went in and I said to the medicine, thank you for what you've shown me in the last 2 days. Please help me heal tonight. And it was the toughest night of my life. I have never experienced anything like it.
Tell us what happened.
So we were outside, because it was in August in Spain, and we'd done it like early in the evening. So we were outside, and the night before had been so much full of love and heart opening, and this night was dark. It was dark. I couldn't get out of this darkness. And I was having some visions, and I kept trying to pull in the panther and the spirits and the trust. And there's another plant medicine called hape, which is the tobacco, and I've never smoked. And I had tried it the night before, and they were saying this is very much an opening, it helps release. I tried it, it was okay. And I thought, so basically one of the helpers said to me, you know, just try and like get into your space. And I was struggle. And then the most powerful emotion I can remember came up. I sobbed for about, and it felt like 2 hours. I just lay and sobbed. And I went into the fetal position, and I now read that you shouldn't go into the fetal position because you're closing yourself off. And I just felt this pain, and I remembered things. And then I was shown things. I was shown things about my parents, and I was shown things about my ancestors, and I was shown about the lineage and my feminine, all the women in my life. And I remember it was so tough. I was really struggling, and the rest of the crowd seemed to be having a really nice night, and all the singing was going on. And I'm sitting like, it's so dark. And a voice kept saying to me, ask for happy. And I was really averse to this. I was like, no. We were having another blessing that night. So I went up for my blessing, and I remember like hanging on the bench, like thinking, this is awful. And I got back to my space, and I said to the helper, I said, I need happy. And she said, okay. And they came over, and they were just so lovely. And they said to me, you know, this just might release some things. This might make you feel a wee bit sick. You know, just be prepared. And I was a bit scared, and I said, can you hold my hand? I took the happy. The people in the retreat still talk about this. They said they have never seen a heart open the way my heart opened. It was like, they gave me it, and they said, this may open your heart. And I just went, hell yeah. And I was like, and it was like, my heart, one of the helpers told me, I didn't believe in myself when I went there. I didn't believe fully that I could love myself. And when I went to the retreat, one of the helpers said to me, you have the most beautiful heart. It's like a flower, but you need to open it. And I was like, what's she talking about? And then when I took this happy, I knew my heart was this size. But what it did to me was it started this purge. And this is the most, I was rocking. And then the shaman was over, and he was blessing me and blowing, you know, flower water on me and really protecting me. But all I can say is, from the bottom of my stomach, I released the trauma I had carried for 30 years. It came out me. I was screaming into the bucket, get out, get out. I mean, it sounds crazy. And for probably about 10 minutes, I thought I was in hell. And then after I did it, I mean, I was, because everybody used to say next morning I came out of ceremony, they were like, you look the same, your hair's still the same, you walk out, you know, you're okay. I was like this, I was battered, I was sweating. And then I remember going through this and this peace coming over me. And I remember saying, it's done, I'm at peace, I'm at peace. And the helpers were just so beautiful. They lay me down, they covered me in blankets. One of them sat and played the harp beside me. She sang to me. And I remember just lying there thinking, it's peace, it's peace. And it was so tough to go through, but that was my breaking point. And actually what I'd gone in to heal that night wasn't what came up. It was the trauma of age 22 that I had hidden and pushed aside and forgotten about that actually came up. And it was the most profound experience of my life.
And this is really important to remember, because the body holds the story. No matter what you say to yourself, I've dealt with that, I've dealt with that. You know, your body doesn't. It holds on until you absolutely, deal with it. Now, I use EFT tapping, as most of my know, to deal with that, but I've got to the point now where I want to try the plants. So you came back from that retreat and you went again a year later, didn't you?
Yeah, I went in March. So I went probably 6 months later. So I came back and I was like, wow. And I was a bit like, whoa, what's happened? And my integration, I'd say it was up and down. I had to really work on it. I had to really journal. I had to really take time for myself, but it opens your eyes. I had never appreciated nature. I love my walks now. I go out in nature. I appreciate, my eyes are open, my heart's open. I came home and I hadn't spoken to my mum and dad for 5 years, and I phoned my mum and I just said to her, I love you. And we met. And then my dad was really funny. And if you ever watch, he says, my dad was really funny. He's like, that stuff. Have you been in a cult? You know, that's illegal. And I said, but I'm here, we're talking. And it showed me, what it showed me was, I don't have to understand other people's stuff. It's all about me, my love. And I can truly say my love, my forgiveness. And it's easy to say those words, but to really mean and feel those words is a totally different thing. And my heart just opened. I am more accepting. I'm not saying that life has been perfect. It's not. That's shown me an awful lot of things that have come up. But I would say the difference now is the things that come up and the triggers that happen, I work on them like that. I address them, I work on them. I can sit down and say, what's this showing me? Why am I'm not a victim anymore. I don't play victim anymore.
That is fantastic to hear, because everything happens for us. It doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And the moment that you understand that and go, why has this happened to me? What is this showing me? You can improve your life so much more. We're coming to the end of the episode. But before we go, I just want you to say, because you no longer run a salon now, do you? You're helping people. Because the thing is that once you get this call, you do want to go out and spread the word. You're just kind of going, if everybody knew what I knew, the world is a different place. So tell me, what is the difference between doing ayahuasca and doing mushrooms? So, everybody's talking about microdosing at the moment. So what is the difference between a mushroom ceremony?
Well, a mushroom ceremony, I've only done 2. And I think you're always called to a plant. So I was more called to ayahuasca. So mushroom, I believe, is a masculine plant. So the mushroom is it will show you what you need to be shown. However, it's it's very masculine, and it goes boom. You can't run from what the mushroom's telling you. You can't, the mushroom's very direct, very masculine, very there in your face. And if you're with a good healer and good practitioner, they'll guide you to go through that space, but you can't run from the mushroom. It's masculine. It's very beautiful. Ayahuasca is a feminine, and they call her she, and she's more feminine. She flows. She takes you on a journey, but you can dip, you can go around it. You sometimes don't have to go and face what she's showing you, whereas it's just the feminine and the masculine. And they're both beautiful plants, but they've got different energies.
That's really good to know. Thank you. What are you doing now to help people? Where's your calling taken you?
So really quickly, I went on my second retreat in March, and it was totally different. So profound, so loving, so beautiful, to the point I was actually humbled. I had a message in that retreat that they had work for me to do. And I was like, oh, little old me. So I have trained in a modality called silent counseling, which is quite similar to your tapping, but it's energy modalities in the body for releasing trauma. So I'm going through my training with that. I've always danced, so I'm learning ecstatic dance, and I have I'm going to brand myself as Return to Love, because that's what I've done. I've returned to love, and I want to help women through dance, trauma healing, coming together, being able to speak, and whether that takes the form of retreats. I've got a private Facebook group. I'm just at the beginning of it all, so I'm just seeing where it takes me. I've had people say to me, I've had lots of people that have sat on the outside and watched me, people that you wouldn't expect, and a lot of women have said to me, what have you done? And it's not about how you look, it's about how you just present and how you are. And most days I feel bloody amazing. I do microdose. I know you were going to talk about that. I microdose.
Yes, and I do want to ask you about microdosing. Again, I'm so new to this. It's just like, I won't tell that story actually. But bloody Santa turned up last Christmas for my children with microdosing in there, and then my children go, "Oh my God, Santa's lost the plot," and I'm going, "Yes, he fucking has. You can't do that, my girls." So let's talk a bit about microdosing, because again, I'm middle-aged, and all of a sudden, everybody I know is microdosing.
Yeah, I mean, my friend who's been my coach and the one that went and did ayahuasca, first of all, that's her modality is mushrooms. So she's helped me with that. So it's just the tiniest amount. It doesn't make any difference, but it keeps you up here. It's like four days on, 3 days off. Sometimes I forget to do it, but I have my other things. I do my meditation, I do my nature walks. As you can see, I've not turned into a raging hippie. I still love my makeup. I still wear my jewelry. I'm still Pauline. But I have these coping mechanisms now. And if I can just tell you one thing, my son, who's 28, said to my daughter, "I don't know what mum's doing up in those mountains, but it's bloody working."
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, there is no greater accolade than your children being happy for the progress that you're making.
Yeah.
And I presume this is for men as well, but I can't really talk from this point of view. But for women, you go on a healing journey, and I know my healing journey was traumatic, and I've spoken about it many, many times, but you just, when your kids actually go, "You're doing okay, Mum."
Okay, Mum. Yeah.
Nothing beats that. And my children took the piss out of me for many years over my journey, and they've now started calling me Philly J Slay, which to me, I want that written on my grave. Actually, my tombstone was just going to say Philly J Slay. Thank you, girls. Oh, Pauline, that has been just a lovely talk. So lovely. And I just bless you for sharing, because that takes a brave person to come out and go, "Do you know what? I did this. It's illegal. I went abroad. I did it." And so I just want to thank you. Can you just clarify for the record, because I don't know, is it illegal in Spain or not?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. So I know you can go to Holland.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is illegal in Spain. The centre I go to is so well run, so respected, and I know that the shaman brings the medicine in legally, because there's a certain amount you can bring into Spain, but you're not then. I don't think it's legal to have retreats. However, it is done with the highest love, respect, and it saves you traveling to Colombia. Although I would like to go to Colombia, which my husband is now saying, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, one day I'll go to the jungle."
I'll come with you.
That's a date. That's a date. I'll keep you to that.
I've got my 60th birthday coming up, so we're going to the jungle.
Yeah.
That has been an absolute joy. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for writing your stories. Thank you, all of you that wrote your stories. I mean, bless you, every single one of you. And, we have got to get this information out to people. There are so many ways to heal. There is so much that we can do for our health and our well-being. But, Western medicine is the third biggest killer of mankind. And I haven't been able to find a case study yet, having done a little bit of research of people dying of ayahuasca. Have you, Pauline?
No, I had a few people. I mean, if you read the Daily Mail, they'll give you, died in Costa Rica, but they don't mention that, there was an underlying health problem. And I would say that as well. I was screened so carefully before I went. And if anybody is on antidepressants or medication, they must come off these before they do it. So you need to find a reputable centre, and I have never heard of anybody dying. And I know that the Thai or the shaman I sat with holds it in Colombia and has never had anybody. They are so they look after you so well. So I think it's the mainstream media that just push all the negatives. I've never
and it's
heard
very
that.
important to say, you know, from all the research I've done, which is quite extensive now, you cannot mix. I mean, I love the way they call us, you know, alternative medicine. We didn't alter nature, you know. It's just like,
no, it's been here for thousands of years.
yeah,
you know.
So you know, but the two don't mix, do they? It's like cutting off your arm and saying, oh, I'll just put a band-aid on it. You know, you can't. You do one or the other on this journey. So you've got to, you know, get your head together, think about it, think about whatever modality, anything you can do to help heal yourself in a world that we live in that doesn't always have our best interests at heart. But
No.
the medicine does, apparently. I don't know. I've yet to find out.
You will find out.
Pauline, just quickly tell us,
Yeah.
where can we find you? What's your Facebook page?
Well, my Facebook page is just Pauline Adams, and you have to friend me, but I have an Instagram called Return to Love with Pauline, which is an open business page. It's very new, it's very fresh, but you can read my story on there. And I put up things to try and help. And if I can help one person just by telling my story, then I'm happy.
And that's what it's about. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sweetheart. Bless you.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute honour to tell this story. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.